and welcome to today's call. I am so excited. This is just the kick in the pants that you needed. Today we have Larry Winget, 6-time New York Times bestselling author, also had his own TV show, and this is the man who is going to get you up off the couch, motivated, and teach you how to grow a pair. Welcome, Larry.
Welcome. I'm not going to get people up off the couch, though. They have to do that for themselves. I'm just going to tell them why they need to do it. It's up to them to do it.
So let me just go over some of your titles here. Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life. You're Broke Because You Want to Be. It's called Work for a Reason. People Are Idiots, and I Can Prove It. Your Kids Are Your Own Fault. You know, I keep remembering that one as Your Kids Are Your Own Damn Fault.
Most people always stick that in there. I don't know why, but that's good. I don't care.
I don't know. And your latest one is Grow a Pair. Now, the economy, they say we're out of the recession. A lot of people are going, I don't notice anything different. Real estate is still collapsed. It's hovering on the brink of another bubble. And there's still a huge unemployment problem. And the entire purpose of this tele-event is curing unemployment, either inspiring entrepreneurship as an alternative to joblessness or teaching business owners how to effectively scale, manage, leverage their business so they can end up hiring more people. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people are sitting around and waiting for somebody to save them. So let's talk about that. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, you're absolutely right. We have an entire society that are victims, and they're wallowing in the entitlement culture. And that's really the reason I wrote the book, Grow a Pair. In fact, the subtitle is How to Stop Being a Victim and Take Back Your Life, Your Business, and Your Sanity. When I look around, I see a nation full of wimps and weenies who are so willing to let other people come to the rescue, so unwilling to stand up for themselves and what they believe, so unwilling to take control of their own future, and instead want somebody else to take care of them. And
that absolutely has to stop. So what can people do? I mean, obviously, I want them to go out and get the book because I think that that's the first step to getting themselves off the couch. You mentioned that in the beginning, that you're not here to get them off the couch. You're here to tell them why they need to get themselves off the couch.
Yeah, I get accused a lot how I don't. A friend of mine said the other day, he said, Larry, you don't care one thing about taking care of people. I said, you're right, I don't. I don't give a damn about people. I care about teaching people how to take care of themselves. And I think that's what we have to get back to. We have to teach people how to take care of themselves. Parents have to do that with their kids. Schools need to do that with their students. Employers need to do that with their employees. Teach people to take care of themselves and then set high expectations and consequences when it doesn't happen. But go ahead.
So my one thing that I stand for really is the idea of financial freedom, to me, is not a huge bank account. It is drop me anywhere and I can make money, and not on the street corner. So anywhere you put me, I will find a way to make a living. And I think we've lost that. We've lost that art in society.
We abandoned that art. I don't think it's so much that we lost it, but we just abandoned it. We just walked away. We say, why should I bother to make a living? Because I can always wallow in my stupidity and someone will come to the rescue. When we stop coming to people's rescue, when we say, sorry, sucker, you're on your own, then people will have to go back to doing just what you said. But that's not going to happen. I mean, seriously, it's not going to happen. We are never going to stop taking care of people who want to be taken care of. What I try to tell people is you can't want somebody else to take care of you. It lacks integrity. It's not the right thing to do. So my goal is to get people back to living lives of integrity, telling them what the right thing to do is, expecting them to do the right thing, and living that kind of a life. That's what we've truly lost somewhere along the way.
Well, I think that would be an excellent standard to have everyone live up to. You know, my philosophy was if we took all of that aid out of the federal government's hands and brought it down to, say, the county level, right, or even better, the community level. It's all volunteer. I mean, the minute that we took taking care of your neighbors away from the responsibility of the neighbors and put it into the hands of the federal government to decide and oversee, which, of course, there's no way to oversee 47% of the population on welfare or some form of aid. There's no way to oversee that many people. It's just not possible.
You're right.
So I think that's...
So you asked me what I would do?
Yes.
The first thing I would tell every single person who wants to grow a pair is to realize they need to grow a pair. See, so many people right now don't even understand. And if I ask the average person on the street, how do you feel about yourself? You know, the only place we rank number one is in self-confidence. You know, we're 27th in math skills, but we rank number one in self-confidence. We feel really good about being really stupid, which is kind of a shame. So I would tell people to realize they don't have the pair they think they do. If you can walk down the streets and people drop trash in front of you and you don't say anything to them because you don't think it's any of your business, you don't have a pair and you're an idiot and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. If you sit in a movie theater and let people talk around you and ruin the movie that you've just paid $20 to see, you're an idiot. You need to grow a pair. If your 8-year-old has a cell phone because you don't know how to tell them no, then they run the family. You don't run the family. If your kids talk back to you, you're not in control. If you have lousy employees who are running your business because you don't know how to discipline them, manage them, or fire them, then you are truly without a pair, and I don't know how you can ever expect to be successful in business. So when you look at those kind of questions, you have to ask yourself, do I really have a pair or not? Most people don't.
You know, I would think I have a pair in most situations, except when you brought up the 8-year-old with the iPhone. Thanks for that. I was doing really good right until then. Busted. So even I don't have a pair. I don't have a complete pair. But, yeah, I will tell people off, make them stop talking in the movie theater, redirect a line of 400 people that's going the entire wrong way on a battleship for a lunch.
There you go.
No problem. Fix that problem. So first of all, so that's step one. Realize you need a pair.
Yeah, and then the second one would be stop whining. You know, we just love to whine. The reason we love to whine, one, is because we think other people care about our problems. We need to get that really straight. Nobody cares about your problems. They're just tickled to death it's your problem and not their problem. Honestly, nobody really cares. Secondly, is that as long as you're whining and complaining, then that tells me you're willing for it to be the way it is. You are not willing to take the action and that you're going to have to take in order to stop having the problem. You can't wallow in the pain of your problem and fix it at the same time. Pick one. You're either going to whine or you're going to fix it. Which is it going to be?
I love that. That's probably my favorite one right there because I notice that, especially on Facebook, a lot. You know, somebody will be whining about how horrible their employer is treating them and, you know, it's horrible, and this is awful, and then they get fired, and it's horrible that they got fired, and I'm thinking... And
their idiotic friends come to their page and say, oh, poor baby, it's a cold, cruel world out there. What a lousy friend that is. A true friend would say, look, you're being an idiot. Cut this crap out. You deserve better than this. You're worth more than this. Get your butt to work. That's what a true friend would do.
Absolutely, that's what a true friend would do. And I think the same thing goes, you know, if you are... going through challenges. You want to focus on the solution, not wallow in the problem.
Well, first of all, admit you have a problem. I'm not one of those rose-colored guys. That surprises you, doesn't it? That says we don't.
What? You're not a dream it and achieve it?
No, not me.
I can't sit on my couch and say money comes easily and frequently and have it drop in my lap? Come on, you're busting my bubble.
No, none of that applies to me, I can assure you. You know, I love walking through an office and you see those big signs from Successories. Remember Successories? That says, we don't have problems. We only have opportunities. No, you're a bunch of idiots. You have problems. First of all, admit you have a problem, but then instantly, the instant you realize you have a problem, go to work on the solution. Don't think about the solution. Take action. Action changes everything, even if you do the wrong thing. And people always say, well, Larry, I don't know the right thing to do. Do the wrong thing. Even if it's the wrong thing, you'll find out quicker. But action creates momentum, and that's what people need to do. Get off your butt and start doing something, anything, but don't sit and wallow ever. And the next part is you need plans. What I have found out is that people who have plans, and I mean big, bold, brash, ballsy plans, usually do so much better. Even if you're broke, let's look at financial because you brought up financial freedom. Let's say you're broke. The minute you have a budget, and by the way, broke people never have a budget. ever. So the minute you have a budget, if the budget does nothing but confirm to you that you are indeed broke, now you are in more control of your finances, just knowing that, having it down in black and white. That budget is a plan. It tells you where you are. It can help you determine where you want to go. But having that budget will put you more in control of your finances. Being more in control of anything is empowering and will give you more confidence so you can go out and actually do something about it. So get some plans.
I love plans. I have really, really, really big plans, and I found that when I share them with people, there's only a few people I can tell whose brain doesn't like instantly explode, or they don't go, oh, you've got to be kidding, you're dreaming. Like, well, how do you handle the naysayers or the people that go, oh, you're not going to be able to do that? And I've accomplished every goal I set.
I don't tell anybody anything.
Will hit it. You don't tell them anything?
Nah. I have no time in my life for naysayers. I just keep my business to me. I barely tell my wife what my plans are, simply because even though we've been together 35 years, she can give me that look, and I go, I know you think I'm full of crap, okay? But I will make this happen. So I don't want the conversation anymore. So when I figure out what I want to do, I just go do it. And then, Frank Sinatra was right. Success is the best revenge. And so if you want to really be successful, keep it to yourself. Stay away from the naysayers. Don't set yourself up for them to agree with you, because really you don't need that. That won't move you down the road. And certainly don't set yourself up for them to be a naysayer and go, I don't think you can do that. Or why would you want to do that? Because I can, idiot. That's why I'm going to do it. I can.
You are such an inspiration to me. I can't even begin to tell you. I love the attitude. I think if more people had this attitude in the entrepreneurial circles that I've been running in, we wouldn't even have an unemployment problem right now. We'd have just so much business booming all over.
You're absolutely right. And the reason, I think you're broke because you want to be. I think you're fat because you want to be. And I think you're out of work because you want to be. And people always want to argue with me about that stuff. Everything in your life is just the way you want it to be. Otherwise, it would be different. If you're fat, broke, stupid, and lazy, that's your fault. Don't go to anybody else. You could fix it. And I feel the same way about being unemployed. You could fix it. The problem is people get all high and mighty and think they're worth more. No, you're worth what you can get paid at the moment. You add value over time in order to increase what you can get paid. But I don't care what you used to do. By the way, nobody cares what you used to do. I don't care the fact that you made $150,000 last year as an engineer and now you're out of work and you're saying, do you want fries with that? You say, do you want fries with that? Because that's the honorable thing to do. It's not to take advantage of the government or the fact that there are systems out there who are willing to come to your aid. The honorable thing for any human being to do is get up in the morning and add value to society by working. Agreed.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about downsizing the paycheck. And, it is an interesting concept. Down during Y2K, and right about then I was getting an ungodly amount of money. And then the tech industry crashed right after that. And I went from being able to do a home remodeling project every week to, back to almost where I started, like 2 years earlier, which was a significant pay cut, even though my talent had only increased. But that was just the market. The market wouldn't bear what it used to because the entire bubble collapsed. So dealing with that was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mindset shift. So
I can't get paid for a keynote speech today what I got paid for a keynote speech 5 years ago. The market has shifted. There's not that much money out there to pay keynote speakers what they used to. I understand. Every industry goes through that. Now, people focus on that, and they get their egos out there, and they're leading with their egos instead of with their principles. And I have big issues with that.
So let's talk about principles. What are your top principles?
Well, I ask everybody that, and that's a big part of the book, Grow a Pair. What are your principles? And if I walked up to the average person on the street and said, tell me your 5 principles that you'll never compromise, no matter what anybody says to you, no matter what challenge you're faced with, you will not compromise these principles. And when I ask people those things, they just look at me like a dog looking at a ceiling fan. They don't have a clue what to say. I have certain principles I will never compromise. I will never be lied to, ever. Somebody lies to me, screw you. I'll cut you off at the knees. We will never speak again. I will never do business with you. You will stop being my friend. We are done. You are dead to me if you lie to me. Do not lie to me. You can come to me and say, I screwed up. I've made a horrible mistake. I'm sorry. And I will hang with you, work through it with you. But if you lie to me, I'm done. That's a principle of mine. Honesty is something I demand.
I love it.
Which one of yours?
Mine. Well, no cheating, no hitting, no lying in relationships. I'm really, really easy, too. Just like you said, don't lie to me. Number one, unfortunately, I apologize, but I'm practically a mind reader, and I'll just watch you lie to me and know that you did it. And then I'll...
Yeah, I can accept any ugly truth, but as long as it's the truth.
That's right. As long as it's the truth. You tell me the truth, I'm not saying I won't get mad, but you won't be done.
I totally agree with you. See? There you go.
Exactly. And, no cheating, no hitting, no lying. Those are my top three for relationships. Integrity is a big piece. Do what you say. That's a big one.
Well, that's my number one rule for life and for business. Do what you said you would do, when you said you would do it, the way you said you would do it.
Right.
That's a big one for me. And see, because I think that's all anybody ever wants. I think that's all any employer wants from their employees, to do what they said they would do, when they said they would do it, the way they said they would do it. Now, conversely, I believe that's all any employee wants from their employer. I think that's all any husband wants from their wife, or wife wants from their husband, or parents want from their kids, or kids want from their parents. I think all of us want people to keep their word, live lives of integrity where we do what we said we would do, when we said we would do it, the way we said we would do it.
And I think that if we went back to that, and this is a long time ago, but it was my grandpa's era. And that was the handshake society. Our entire society was based on a handshake. That we had way few lawyers. You barely ever needed them. You literally just...
your word was your bond, and a deal was a deal.
And a deal's a deal, and done. And stuff just happened. And it moved, and it worked. So, that was that's a big piece of it, and I think we've moved away from that in society. But you're right, it's that entitlement. So what do we do? Is there something that I can do personally to help society with the entitlement issue? Or is it really every single person is going to have to just take up that mantle and fight their own personal battle with it?
Well, I don't think we can change the world. One, because I don't think the world wants to be changed. The sad part about being in the self-help industry is that people get in the self-help industry, the personal development industry, what I do for a living, and their goal is to change the world. That's a stupid goal. You cannot change the world. All any of us can ever do is change our own world. And we change our own world, and that's one of the principles I talk about in the book. You need to go to the mirror and fix yourself first. Look yourself in the eye and say, what do I need to do right now in my own life? I need to live a better life of honesty and integrity and having a better work ethic, those sorts of things. And then you say, I've got to move that now from me into my family. And if you have kids, you've got to start teaching them that, where they know what they stand for and are willing to speak up for it and stand up for it. And we all have to do those things. And if enough individuals would do that, then we would start seeing communities and the rest of our society change. But the problem is we try to fix things from the top down. I hear people gripe about the president. I gripe about the president too. And it wouldn't matter who was the president. We would all gripe about the president. But see, things don't get fixed from the top down. Our government and our administration and our politicians and our CEOs and Wall Street reflect society. We've got to change. And society is just made up of a bunch of people. And when people start to change, that's when it will change what goes upwards. Not downhill, uphill.
Uphill, right. No trickle down. So let's talk about the people and moving your family. Now, your book, your children are your own, I say.
Your kids are your own fault.
Kids are your own fault. Let's talk about that a little bit. So as a society, when you have 47% of people not working, does that create, and most of the time they have more than one child. So you've got multiple children witnessing the not having to work for money. And how is that increasing our, is that just going to exponentially increase the problem?
Well, of course it is. I mean, that's the example they've been shown. That's how you end up now. I think we're all the way down to the seventh generation. We have seventh-generation welfare recipients. And, welfare was a temporary handout that was supposed to help people and be actually a hand up. And it just turned out it was nothing but a handout, and we just kept giving it and giving it and giving it because there was no expectation to ever go back to work. That's how you end up with a seventh-generation welfare recipient. And so it's going to be, as long as they see that as their example, that's what they are going to learn to repeat. But, I just did a report the other day on the news about a new study that came out among college students that said college students who cheat in college, the number one place they choose to go to work is the government. That's what they think of the government. The government is a place that you can be at home and probably will never get caught or found out if you're a cheater. In other words, if you're a dishonest person, let's go to work in the government. Now, what does that say about society? That's because we don't hold people accountable. So individuals have got to hold others accountable. We can't just go through life saying it's not my business, or putting our head in the sand like an ostrich saying, as long as I don't see it and as long as it doesn't affect me, it's none of my business. That's not true. It does affect us. It affects all of us.
So what can a normal person do? I mean, when they see, the government has a bill, they have to give a certain percentage of government contracts to small business. And small, I don't consider what they call small. It's like 10 million and below or something like that. It's a crazy huge number. They call it small, but they end up awarding those to subsidiary companies of places like Lowe's and Home Depot and, big companies. Mm-hmm. And the accounting office has said it, and the accounting office has done it, but they hold on one second. Hold on. I'm going to have to edit that. I am so sorry. My son walked in with his iPhone and interrupted the interview.
There you go. There's a clue there.
There's a clue there after I pointed and told him to shut the door, and he came in anyway, pointing at his phone like it needs to work. So actually, that's probably a good lesson for people. Are your children running your life? Seriously, that's like a big deal. Like, how do you get a handle on that? Because as a society, our children are just told that they are the little princes and the little princesses, and even in school, parents. This is what I thought was crazy. In California, they passed a bill, I believe, where a child as young as 5 or 6 could decide that they wanted to be the other sex and be called a different name, and the school was not allowed to tell the parents.
And they get to go in any bathroom they want as long as they feel comfortable in that bathroom.
Correct.
Yeah. Now it has nothing to do with the fact that the people who are already in that bathroom aren't comfortable with them coming in.
Exactly. Now, I have a philosophy. If there's a men's room and a women's room, and they are both single-stall bathrooms, and I have to go, I'm picking the one that's open next.
See, I totally agree with that. My wife and I have that philosophy, too. I have no issue with that. If there's a crowd of people in there, though, I stay out. I know what those little symbols on the door mean.
Oh, yes.
Here's the problem.
I have been known to use the men's stall. But they didn't care.
And I do believe one of the biggest mistakes we're making, and I never took so much heat over a book as I did Your Kids Are Your Own Fault, because the very first problem that I pointed out to is that we tell our kids they're special. And entire parenting groups attacked me, and I did all these interviews about how can you say that our kids aren't special. And my point is, your kids are special to you by their birthright. You are their parent. Of course they're special to you. But the instant they walk out your door, the rest of the world is going to judge them based on their performance. It's not who they are, it's what they contribute. See, when they walk into the school, they're just one more snotty-nosed little kid in the third row. That's all they are. There's nothing special about them. When they grow up and they get a job, their employer doesn't give a damn who they are. They just want the work to get done. And the problem is, as long as we keep telling kids that they're special, they're going to believe it. And then they hit the real world. A lot of studies have been done about this, that we have college students graduating right now who cannot deal with the real world because they understand they have to actually go to work. And there are things that will be expected of them, like their bills have to be paid, and they have to have a work ethic. And they don't even know what those things are because their parents did them a huge disservice.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I thought was interesting was when I was in corporate America, they did the hiring people. I was talking to the HR people. They were keen on hiring anybody from Chico, because in Chico, if you can make it through 4 years, and they know that you're partying and drinking every night, and you make it to class and you graduate, that you're a reliable employee. And I just thought that was hysterical.
Yeah. It is. You're right. We've got to change the way. I trace it all, and that's why I say my most important book I ever wrote was Your Kids Are Your Own Fault. And it's because I can trace every issue that we have going on in society right back to bad parenting. I mean, we have bad customer service because parents never taught people to appreciate other folks. We never taught them how to say please and thank you. We never expected them to be able to count change. You know, some real basic things in there like that. We had an entire financial crisis in the housing industry because parents did not teach their kids that when you buy something, you will be expected to pay for it. So only buy what you can afford. That's why we had 30-year-olds that go, don't want this anymore. I'll just walk away. And they walked away from their home loans. And then they talked the government into saying, it wasn't your fault. It was the predatory lenders. Really? Show me a case of all those predatory lending practices where anybody held a gun to your head and said, sign these loan papers. It never happened. And people say, well, I didn't read them. Well, that's not their fault. It's your fault. It was your loan.
It absolutely was. But, I do believe there was some predatory stuff going on in there because they make you waive your right to dishonor and presentment, which are two common law principles, which basically mean if you don't honor the transaction, that there's this whole process you can go through. They make you waive that right in the little fine print of the Fannie Mae and the Freddie Mac docs. They know what they're doing is wrong. They know the documents are wrong, that they're making you sign away almost inalienable rights as a human being. And so I do think that they knew what they were doing. And there is...
Yeah, but how many of those people also never... See, because we changed the law, you never had to prove how much money you could make. All you had to do was state how much money you made.
And that
so
was
people lied on their loan applications.
Well, what happened was the entire mortgage banking industry had this thing called the art department, where they just made the documents look good. Because the underwriters said, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I need this to say this so I can approve it. So the underwriters for the loans for those banks, they knew that it wasn't true, but they were packaging all of these loans together and selling them off seas and just making a ton of money. And then the government bailed them out $1 for $1 because it was SEC fraud. And they didn't want China coming back.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't argue the mortgage industry, but let me take it back to personal responsibility.
Right.
If they said this is your payment and you knew you couldn't afford it, regardless of what the loan document said, you knew you could not afford that payment when they gave you the money.
That's exactly true. What they did was they said you can have a 1% neg am loan, and you're gambling that the price is going to go up in 2 or 3 years, you sell it and flip it and make a killing. So it was all gambling. I mean, how many people go to casinos in real life and gamble versus how many people gambled in real estate? Like, it's huge. It was like mainstream gambling, sanctioned gambling. It was almost as cool as the lottery.
With just about as much chance as winning. There you go.
I think with less chance than winning. Totally less chance than winning. But so let's take it back. So obviously the budget, writing down the budget. Let's go back to that. You were talking about
it's about having a plan. I do think people need to have a plan for their lives. And that means, let me just take it to the most common question that I get. How do I become successful? It's really very, very simple. I tell people to get 3 sheets of paper. No, there's not an app for this. It's 3 sheets of paper and a pen, okay? On the first sheet of paper, you write down where you are in your life. With your finances and your relationships and your career, just write down where you are. On the second piece of paper, put it right next to the first one and say, this is how I would like for it to be. So you've got a page in front of you that says, this is how my life is, and this is how I'd like for my life to be. 2 pieces of paper now. Now, on the third piece of paper, you're going to write down what I'm going to give up to get from where I am to where I want to be. This is where people fall apart because nobody's ever told them, and I think I'm the only guy in the personal development industry that talks about giving things up, sacrifice. Success only comes through sacrifice. We have all those motivational bozos out there saying you can have it all. It's a lie. You cannot have it all. You have to choose. You don't get rich, you give up what's making you broke. You don't get skinny, you give up what's making you fat. You don't get successful, you give up what's making you unsuccessful. So when you look at these two sheets of paper, where you are and where you want to be, what are you going to give up to get from where you are to where you want to be? And see, we live in a society where you don't have to give anything up.
That's very interesting. I have never thought of it like the giving up and the sacrifice. You know, it's interesting you talk about sacrifice. The old people in Japan were going in and doing the nuclear waste cleanup because they were already old and they were willing to sacrifice themselves for their society. And I thought about that, and I'm like, you know, would people do that here? I mean, that's just not our
Did you even have to ask that question?
Well, I mean, in general, I would say in general, as a society, no. There are little pockets, little glimpses of hope, like the 11,000 volunteers for the Make-A-Wish Foundation who transformed San Francisco into Gotham City for that little 5-year-old for Miles.
Yeah.
That was awesome. It was very short term, but it was awesome, and it showed a whole bunch of people coming together for a common cause. But
their life was also not going to be put on the line by doing that.
No, exactly. But what if people, you know, it's very difficult. How do you turn the tide? You know, we have to reform welfare. We have to reform immigration. We have to do things that require the government to cooperate.
But the very people who say, let's reform welfare, let's take the far right, the true Tea Partiers who say this has to change. 67% of the Tea Partiers, I believe that's the number, said absolutely, change welfare, reform it. However, don't touch mine. You see, that's where we are in society. Nobody wants to sacrifice where they are while we're on the way to changing things. That's why I keep driving it back to individuals. You can only change yourself. When you are willing to become less reliant on the government will not be there for you to rely on. That's how we've got to change it. We can't just say, let's fix the government. Let's fix welfare. You're not going to fix welfare. We've got too many people on welfare. Until we have people off of welfare who say, that's no longer necessary for me. I don't need that. Nobody needs it that long. That's when it's going to start getting better. That's why I keep driving it back. It's up to individuals willing to change their house, their lives, their family.
Yeah, but you got like 150 people camping out for 5 days in front of Best Buy to get an $89 55-inch TV.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know, I wrote a book called People Are Idiots, and I can prove it. I mean, it's the easiest book I ever wrote. Anybody could write that book. A guy stopped me in the airport the other day and said, Larry, where do you find all these stupid people you talk about? I said, are you kidding me? I could throw a rock and hit 20 right now.
I don't doubt you. Not for a minute. I don't doubt you. So, okay. So, growing a pair. I would love to see a campaign. I don't know if you were at Sundance. Years and years ago, there was a movie called Mary Jane is Not a Virgin Anymore, and everybody went around wearing, you know, virgin or not a virgin stickers. I would love to see a little campaign like I grew a pair. Like they get.
Well, I would love that. I had a big campaign on my Facebook page where people took pictures of themselves with a big pair.
I love it. Well, I mean, in real life, like every time they stand up to, you know, the person talking in the movie theater, like, you know,
they got a sticker. I had a pair.
They get a sticker. They can get a digital sticker. You know, people will do anything for those badges. I'm not kidding. They will go to extended lengths to check in at 18 Starbucks just to get the extra badge on Foursquare.
Yep.
This could be an app for you. I grew a pair. Every time they grow a pair, they make a little note of how they grew a pair, and that will help them with their goal setting. I will stand up to my children, right? Like my rule is, if we fight about it, I throw it out the window. It gets a little more difficult when we're talking about multiple $100 electronic equipment. Not that I have not chucked it out the window, because I have in the moving car. It's like, you don't scream about this, you don't fight with me.
So you littered, right?
Yes, that $1,000 fine was mine. Hopefully the iPhone was not broken when it went out. But I did chuck that puppy out the window and,
well, good for you.
I can't stay. I will not be yelled at. There's my principal. I will not be yelled at.
I was never yelled at by my children either. Nope. I'm the boss. See, the problem in families right now, and I've been called lots of names over this, is I don't believe families are a democracy. I think they're an absolute monarchy. What our dads and moms told us, my roof, my rules, that's true. They were right.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Which is why he's losing all of his electronics for 2 weeks, because my door is closed. And maybe I need to get an on-the-air thing for my door, but when the door is closed, the rule is you don't open the door, especially because you can't log into your iPhone.
I have a do not disturb thing that I stole from a hotel that I just hang on my door, and I always have had that. And when I had little kids running around my house, I just hung a do not disturb sign on my doorknob, and that meant what it said.
And then, so what do you do when they don't listen to that?
I had to put them to sleep.
They don't think it applies to them.
I had to put them to sleep.
Had to put them to sleep.
I told my kid one time, there's only one cure for our relationship, euthanasia. You've got to go down. So, I loved my boys, and we had a great relationship, but they knew there were lines that could not be crossed. I think that's one of the problems. Good parenting is based on the same principles as good management and good leadership. One, you communicate exactly what you expect. Two, you communicate what happens when you get what you expect and when you don't get what you expect. Then you educate to those expectations, and then you absolutely must impose consequences. Mm-hmm. But where it all breaks down is the communication. We don't tell people what we expect from them, and then we don't tell them what's going to happen if we don't get it. And then we don't educate them. We just expect them to figure it out on their own. We don't educate them how to deliver on the expectation.
That sounds like so much work.
Nah. It was very, very simple. My dad, before we used to go in a place, he would stop and he would say, Larry, when we go in here, this is how you act, okay? And I go, okay, Dad, I got it. And when we went in there, that's how I acted. If I didn't act that way, we went outside. And believe me, no kid ever wants to be taken outside. There are no witnesses outside.
That's very true. Oh, no, but you can't hit your kid now.
I didn't say you had to hit him. I wish, years and years ago, my son turned to me and said, Dad, I was talking to my son, and he said, Dad, I don't need a seminar. Why don't you just beat me? And I said, because I know how much you hate for me to talk to you. So sit down here. We're going to have a talk.
That reminds me of the time when my stepkids, with my former husband, my stepkids made a racial joke, very, very awful racial joke. And I am like the least prejudiced person you'll ever meet. I don't even notice people's nationalities. And they made an awful joke. I marched them up by the ears, and these are big boys. They were over 6 feet at the time. Dragged them upstairs, plopped them down, and made them watch the movie Nuremberg. I'm like, you will not speak until we're done with this, and then we'll talk. They never said another mean thing ever in my presence after that.
There you go. Because you impose consequences. Very few parents impose consequences right now. And the reason they don't is because we're afraid that our kids won't like us. I had somebody actually write me, and she said, Larry, if I did all the things that you told me to do, my kids wouldn't like me. And I said, if your teenagers don't hate you at least half the time, you're a lousy parent. It is their job not to like you. First of all, they're teenagers. They don't like anything. But you're not doing your job as a parent if you don't have such strict guidelines that they're going to hate you for it about half the time. That's just the way it is. It's the way it ought to be. When parents start living their lives and start conducting their parenting skills based on the approval of their kids are in charge.
That translates to leadership as well. Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship. So people who are out there who are talking about getting a job, because you're talking about if you don't have a job, that's your own fault.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about shifting their mindset from, right now maybe the government is taking care of them, and they don't have a job, and they can't find a job. But they can always do something. So let's talk about how they would get over there.
Well, I totally agree that you could drop me anywhere. In fact, was going to shoot a pilot for a show where that was the principle of the show. Drop me anywhere and I can get a job. Give me 48 hours and I'll have a job. I could be making money because I believe that I have that skill as well. When I was the president of the company and my company went bankrupt and I lost everything, I came home and started knocking on my neighbor's door asking if I could trim their trees and rake their yard. I mean, and yeah, it was humiliating. So that's why I'm saying we get our ego in front of our principles. I had to set my ego aside so I could do what the right thing was for my family. And that's the hardest thing for people to do, is to set their ego aside and start to admit that they're fallible. My goodness, they made a mistake or they're in a bad position. And they've got to be willing to do whatever it takes. One of the most important things everybody needs to understand in life is you've got to be willing to do whatever it takes in order to get what you want. If you're not willing to do it, then you're never going to be able to get what you want because you weren't willing. It always comes down to willingness. And if people are wanting to be entrepreneurs or they're going to be just employed, it's going to be your willingness that will determine that. You see, we were raised with this lie. It was called that the world is full of the haves and the have-nots. That's a lie. The world is full of the wills and the will-nots. Will you do what it takes?
That's a good question. And, of course, you know, I'm looking down going, okay, so I have 50 pounds to lose, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Will you do what it takes? That's the question for all of us. Will you do what it takes? It's never can you. Everybody can. It's always will you.
That is a really good question. That should be weaved into the schooling or the teaching. I mean, from a very young age.
Sure should. I'm a smart guy. They ought to make my books required reading.
People should get a stack of them when they have a child.
Yeah, especially your kids are your own fault, that's for sure.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And, you know, and that was, for me, you know, and like you said, you know, do you have a pair? Yes, I have a pair, except for the kid part. You know, so, you know, you can be doing really well on multiple fronts and have an Achilles heel somewhere that you need to shore up. But
absolutely
right. They
right.
have to be perfect. They just have to be principled.
That's the most important thing. I don't look for perfection ever in anything. I just want people to do their best, but I do want them to know what they believe in, know what they stand for, be willing to speak up for it and stand up for it in the face of conflict. That's where most people fall apart because we are constantly seeking the approval of others. I don't need any other human being on this planet, not my wife, not my kids, not anybody. I don't need them to validate me. I don't know very many people that can absolutely say that. I don't need the validation of other human beings to feel good about me. At the end of the day, I have to be able to look myself in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth and say, it was a good day for you, Larry. It's good to be Larry Winget. That's the most important thing. There are lots of days I can say, boy, I wish I'd done that differently. And it wasn't good to be Larry Winget. And I try to learn from those mistakes. But the problem is I didn't need someone else to tell me that. I hold myself to that standard.
That's a good principle. I think we're going to end on that.
Cool.
That's what everybody needs to learn. And I love the 3 sheets. Where are you at? Where do you want to be? And what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? What are you going to give up? I think that's the assignment for today's call for everyone. Thank you for listening in. Thank you so much, Larry, for joining us. This was an absolute delight and an inspiration, and I am so glad you could join us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome.